Hello, what is up? We are talking all about how to start planning for Q4 in your e-commerce business. So while everyone is hopping on, I'm going to actually go live on Instagram because it's been a minute since I've done that. So let's just start this live, see what happens. We're also going to talk about 2 quick announcements. And we are live on Instagram too. Welcome. We're talking all about how to grow your business in Q2, your e-commerce business in Q2. We're going to talk about the levers that you have that you can pull, right, to grow your business. So this is based on a framework that I created for the lounge. I see some lounge members hopping on. Hello, hello. We're going to be talking about way more of this inside of there as well, but I just wanted to kind of set the stage for you so that you can start thinking about your business in a more strategic and data-driven way. If you guys have never met me, because I haven't been live on Instagram in a minute, but my name is Jessica and I'm an e-commerce and email marketing strategist for scrappy entrepreneurs. Now, before we dive into the actual content that I wanted to share today, there's also 2 announcements that have come out this week that I want to touch on. I'm going to be posting a bonus podcast episode about this as well, but I just want to make sure I talk about it because I know people are asking. So the first thing is an announcement that came from Klaviyo. Now, I love Klaviyo, but unfortunately, they announced it to their customers before they mentioned it to their partners. So as I was reading the email, I had someone messaging me on Instagram to say, hey, by the way, I don't know if this is true, but people are freaking out. Okay, so Klaviyo has changed their pricing tiers, and it's going to go into effect, I think they said April 17th. Or April 11th, I don't know. They gave us just about a month's notice. And I know that it's going to stress some people out, but I want to help you kind of reframe your mind around this first. So what is the change? The main change is on some of the lower Klaviyo plans, you used to have unlimited sends, right? So if you had under a certain number of subscribers, you could send an unlimited number of emails. That is no longer going to be the case. The new pricing structure is going to give you 10x the number of subscribers that you have. So if you have 5,000 subscribers, that means you will be able to send 50,000 emails per month before you have to upgrade to the next level. Why are they doing this? Well, there's a couple of reasons. So one, in the past, they've had multiple different pricing structures that they used. They have some people on the old pricing structure, some people on the new one. I think they said 2014 and 2018. And some of the 2018 people are actually paying less than the 2014 people for the same tool. So one of the main reasons is so that they can level out their pricing across all of their customers for fairness reasons. The second reason is to encourage better sending behavior. So when you have unlimited emails and not everyone does this. If you've been hanging out with me, you're not doing this, but some people just send to their entire list, no matter how engaged they are, no matter how much feedback they get. And they want to really have you take a step back and be more intentional about what you are sending and who you are sending it to. If you have an unengaged list, you don't need to be sending to everyone on your list. And the last reason too is some people were just straight up taking advantage of the fact that you get unlimited emails, and people were staying on lower plans when they should have been on higher plans. Now, this only affected 4,500-ish of their customers. So I think that's kind of added to the confusion, because if you are a Klaviyo customer who was not affected by this change, you did not get the notice. If you were one of the 4,500-ish people who it did affect, you did get the notice, and then you're asking people and they're like, I didn't get that. So there's a lot of confusion in the space. But yes, it is happening. You are still going to have tremendous ROI from your email. All this means is that if you have a list of 5,000 people, and that means you can send 50,000 emails per month. So that's about 10 emails per person per month. And that is the level that you are sending at. And your people are super engaged, right? They're opening and clicking and buying from everything. And you still want to continue to send to those 5,000 people. You can still do that. It just means you need to upgrade to the next tier. But if you are getting that sort of engagement and return on your emails, you're still going to have a positive ROI. So let's remember that as a software as a service, a SaaS product, right? They have a lot of team members, a lot of engineers. They are constantly upgrading the platform, making it better, adding new features, and they just want to make sure that one, everyone is priced fairly across the platform, right? All of their customers, and that they have the revenue that they need to make the improvements that they want to make, and that they're not getting taken advantage of. We all know that like the few people that suck kind of ruin it for everyone else, right? But like I said, a lot of people aren't even affected by this and are already paying on those same tiers. So we're just leveling the playing field. If you have more questions about that, feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram or message me on Facebook. The other announcement that came out, if you've logged into your Google Analytics lately, is that Google is going to be retiring Universal Analytics. Now, they released GA4, I don't remember how long ago it was, probably over a year ago at this point. And so we kind of knew that that was eventually going to happen. We just didn't know when. The good news is Google is giving us until July of 2023, so you have plenty of time. Funny enough, I literally just released like yesterday a course on Google Analytics and how to read all of your data, which is based on Universal Analytics. It's still valuable because you're going to be using that for the next year and 3 months or something like that. And it will still get you comfortable in the platform and understanding the lingo and everything. But the problem with Google Analytics 4 is Shopify's native Google Analytics feature does not support GA4, and you can't see website conversion in GA4. There are some ways you can hack it. I'm not really a fan of hacking things like that. If you are on Shopify Plus, this is not an issue because you can use Google Tag Manager and you get access to checkout. But if you are on the lower Shopify plans, GA4 doesn't really work for you. So I contacted Shopify. It is on their roadmap to update their native integration to GA4. They don't have an ETA yet. And of course, I said, well, hopefully they'll move it up so people have time to learn it and get comfortable with it. Your data in Universal Analytics is safe for now. It will continue to stay in there through July. But the really unfortunate thing is they're going to actually be removing the access to your historical data as well. So don't panic. I'm going to come up with a nice little plan for you of how you can export all of your data, store all of your data, all of that good stuff. So I just wanted to chat about those two quick things. Like I mentioned, I'm going to release a bonus little quick podcast episode on them as well. And if you have any questions about either of those things, feel free to reach out. But let's hop into what we're actually here to talk about today, which is identifying the growth levers in your business so that you can plan for Q2. So the first thing I want to mention, and I was having a conversation with a lounge member, which that's the e-commerce membership that I have. And she was talking about how when she first sat down to do the planning, the light bulb for her was what we, set up for you and what we explained to you is to pick like 1 to 2 main big things that you want to accomplish each quarter. And she was like, wait, only 1 to 2 things? Like I was trying to do a year's worth of stuff in like a month. And then no wonder you don't have success and you feel defeated because you get no momentum. So that's the first thing I want you to think about is for the next 90 days to pick 1 to 2 main things that you want to accomplish during this time. This could be migrating to Shopify 2.0. It could be updating your website. Just maybe you have new branding. It could be finalizing your email flows. But just pick 1 to 2 big things that you want to accomplish during Q2. And then I want to talk about the number. So I talked about this on a podcast episode, and this is sort of the basis for the lounge, which the doors open again at the end of May. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to ecommercebadassry.com/membership and get on the wait list, but we'll talk more details about that. But really, you have to think about there's only a few ways that you can grow your business. So if you are coming into Q2 and you're thinking, I want to grow my business by 20%, well, all right, cool. But like, what does that actually mean? What do you have to do to grow that 20%? How are you going to get there? So that's what I really want to talk about today and how you can use your data to decide what you should focus on. And Laura said, focusing on 1 to 2 growth levers makes it less overwhelming. Yes. And Dave Ramsey, right, the debt finance guy, I only discovered him recently, but he talks so much about paying off your smallest debt. And he talks about the Snowball Method, where a lot of people will tell you, oh, okay, pay off the one with the highest interest rate. But he recommends paying off the smallest one first so you can start crossing shit off your list, right? And you feel accomplished. And now you have momentum and you're more invigorated to keep going. And that's how we want to set this up for you as well, to just focus on 1 or 2 main things that you can do really well and feel accomplished at. So when it comes to understanding the numbers, I have some notes over here off screen. If at any point you guys have questions about what I'm talking about, pop them on in the comments. But I want you to remember that there's really only 5 ways that you can make more money in your business. You can increase your website traffic. You can increase your conversion. Increase your average order value. So how much does someone spend on a purchase? Increase your gross margin or increase your customer return rate. So when you're sitting down and saying, okay, cool, I want to grow my business by 20%, and maybe that's over the quarter, over the year, doesn't really matter. Concept is the same. So when it comes to hitting that 20% increase, you need to figure out which of those KPIs you are actually going to focus on. And the only way to do that is to sit down and crunch the numbers, right? So what if you are trying to reach a 20% increase in your revenue, then how much does that KPI need to increase to hit that number? So let me lay out some numbers for you. So let's pretend that you are currently doing $300,000 in your e-commerce business over the course of the year. You have an average monthly traffic of 20,000 sessions. Your website conversion rate is 2%. Your AOV is $62.50. And then your gross margin is 60%. And this replay will be available if you want to come back and watch this. So if your goal is to increase your revenue by 20%, that means that you want to have an additional revenue of $60,000 for the year. But how do you get there? If you were only going to focus on increasing one of those KPIs, right? Traffic, conversion, AOV, gross margin, or return customer rate, that's going to be really hard. Like, it's a really, really big jump to do that. So what would that look like? If all of our numbers stayed the same and we were just focused on one KPI to get that additional 60K per year, that means we would need to increase our traffic by 4,000 sessions per month. That feels really overwhelming, right? Or instead, maybe we focus on conversion. But then we would need to increase our conversion from 2% to 2.4%, which also feels really hard and overwhelming. Maybe we're just going to focus on our AOV. How do we do that? Or what would that take? So we would have to increase our AOV from $62.50 to $75 to hit that 60K increase for the year. That also sounds really hard. That would be an additional $12.50 per transaction in order to hit that goal. So instead, what if we just improved all 5 of those a little bit? Just a little bit. So for those of you guys hopping on a little bit later, we're talking about how to use our KPIs and what growth levers we have to hit the ultimate goals that we have in our business. Here's another way to do this, right? Let's say we don't actually care about our revenue number. Some of us, it doesn't matter, right? What's more important is our profit, which it should be. Profit over revenue, right? Profit's what you actually get to put in your pocket. So at this point, let's pretend that our sales for the year are $360,000, right? And we have a gross margin of 60%. That means our gross profit is $216,000. So let's say we just want to focus on making more profit. The revenue number is fine. We don't need to increase our traffic or anything like that. We're just going to focus on our gross margin, which is already at 60%. If we want to keep that same profit or increase our profit, now we need to get our gross margin to 72%. That's like freaking impossible. Unless you're making your own product and you're buying a shit ton of units at a time. And even then, 72% is pretty hard to reach. So the idea here, and what I'm trying to illustrate for you, is that if we just make incremental increases for each of the levers, and then we can split that responsibility, it's so much easier to reach those goals. So we're just going to focus on 4. We're going to focus on traffic, conversion, AOV, and our gross margin. Let's just pretend we're going to work on those 4. So if we split our increase evenly, so that's 20%, which is $60,000. That means we just need a traffic increase of 1,000 sessions per month. That feels easier, right? Then we need to increase our conversion from 2% to 2.1%. Also feels a lot easier and more doable. We need to increase our AOV from $62.50 to $65.63. And then we're going to look at our gross margin and try and increase that from 60 to 63%. So give me some emojis if this is all making sense. Let me know if you're following along. There is a podcast episode. It's episode 93 that you can check out. And if you go to ecommercebadassery.com/93, you can see the full transcript of this, which will have this all written out for you. So it'll be a little bit easier to follow and kind of take in. And then what I recommend you do is sit down and look at your own numbers. Going into Q2, like, let's look at your numbers and figure out, what do you have to do to get to your ultimate goal? Once you know where you're focusing, then you can decide on the marketing activities that are going to support that. So if you know that you need to increase your traffic by 1,000 sessions per month, Now we have to look at, okay, cool, how do we increase our traffic? What does that look like? That could look like paid ads. It could look paid ad. I don't know, that was a weird accent. It could look like paid ads. It could look like collaborations, getting in front of other people's audiences, right? It could be showing up more on social. It could even be just sending more emails also. That also drives traffic. Same thing goes for your conversion. We're just trying to make these incremental increases. So what can we do to increase our conversion rate? Maybe we need to take new product photos, or we need to optimize our product descriptions to make them more enticing, to get more people to click, right, and add those items to their cart. But you only need a little bit of an increase, so it's not as hard to accomplish. Same thing with your AOV. Now we're just trying to increase it from 62.50 to 65.63. Really easy. Add a cross-sell app. That will probably get you to your next goal. You can also raise your free shipping threshold. But do you see how when we have a specific KPI goal, then we can pick marketing activities, strategies, tactics that speak specifically to that KPI, that is going to support the increase of that specific KPI. And it's not you thinking like, oh my gosh, I need to increase sales by 20% or $60,000. I need to do all of the things. You don't need to do all of the things. You need to be intentional and do the things that are going to move the needles that you know are going to get you to your goal. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Go ahead and pop them in the comments while I take a sip of water. And you can do this any time of year, honestly. I know we're talking about it going into Q2, but maybe you haven't really been the best at planning. So now's a great time to start. You can do this on a monthly basis. Just think about whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish in your business. How can you break it down into the smallest possible to do with the most realistic goals? Because I want you guys to have wins, and I want you to feel motivated to keep going and keep trying instead of always feeling defeated because your goals are too big. That doesn't mean you don't dream big. You're dreaming big, 100%. But in terms of how you actually execute to get to that big dream goal, you need to do it in small steps. The URL was ecommercebyastery.com/93. So that will have this concept that we're talking about right now is all written out for you. So it'll make it a lot easier for you to kind of follow along, because I know I'm just kind of spitting a lot of numbers at you. And then we've had some new people join. So let's go back and talk about when you're actually setting your goals. What we talked about in the very beginning was you can't do all the things in 90 days. You just can't. So I want you to pick one or two main things that you're going to focus on during that time when we're talking about Q2. And you need to think about it in terms of your entire business. Is your business seasonal? Is Q4 big for you? If that's true, right, then bigger projects you want to do earlier in the year, because you don't want to be doing that shit in Q4. You need to just be focused on selling your product. So I want you to think about what makes sense for you personally as the CEO, the founder, your team. What's going on? If Q2 is slow for you in your business, then that's a great time to work on really big projects like upgrading your website to Shopify 2.0, for example. If it's a busy time for you, then maybe you want to focus on some smaller things like list growth. And maybe Q3 is actually slower for you, and so you can focus on bigger projects then. So kind of map out what your year typically looks like. It's going to depend on your business, your marketing strategies, the product that you sell, your customer. It's not going to be the same for everyone. And then map out your big goals and break them down over the quarters based on the bandwidth that you have. Laura asks, what cross-sell app do you like? Selly, S-E-L-L-Y. I believe it's only for Shopify, but it is my favorite. It lets you do cross-sells that pop up in front of the customer after they add something to cart. It lets you do one-click bundle, add to cart as well. Facebook user said, I finally moved my site to Shopify. Yay. Goal for Q2 is updating all the inventory to the new photos I took because Q2 is super slow for me. Perfect. That's exactly the time. And I had another podcast episode. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but I talked about, what do you do when your business is slow? And a lot of us will get frantic and try and scramble to figure out how can I increase my business right now and get more revenue right now? When sometimes what we should be doing is just appreciating the slow time and doing all that stuff that doesn't get done during our peak business time. So this way, when you go into those peak periods, right, you can feel confident because you've got your systems done, your projects are done, and you can just focus 100% on selling your product to the people who need it. That's how I like to try and approach it. Okay. Oh my gosh, it's 2:26 already. So you guys know I like to keep these to 30 minutes, but I'm going to hang out for a little bit if you guys have any questions about what I chatted about. Just a few reminders of things that if you are a Klaviyo user or a Shopify user, I'm going to be dropping a bonus podcast episode. I'll probably just get it out tomorrow, honestly, that are going to talk about the changes coming for Klaviyo pricing and Google Analytics. So check that out if you missed the beginning of this. The replay will also be available. We did just kind of touch quickly on the lounge membership. Doors are not open right now, but if you're interested in being part of an e-commerce specific membership program that has monthly training and Q&A calls and all that stuff, you can go to ecommercebadassery.com/membership. You'll hear a lot more about it when the doors open. And I also just released a Google Analytics crash course that's available right now. So you can go to ecommercebadassery.com/data to check that out if you need help navigating through Google Analytics and reading your data so that you can work on all this stuff we just talked about. All right, quiet group today. Thank you guys so much for spending your time with me and hanging out with me on the internet. I really appreciate it. I am in the process of buying a home, so my live schedule has gotten totally jacked up, but I'm working on getting it back on. And hanging out on Instagram more because it's been a minute since I've done a live over here. Thank you again. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm going to pop off of Instagram here. And thank you, Facebook. I'll see you guys all soon. Bye.